Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Runestone. Today we're going to be going over the Magic the Gathering top 10 moon cards, and no, they're not all enchantments. Now, at number 10, which is Call of the Moon, first on our list, which is from Magic Origins. It's an uncommon going for 6 cents on the market. This card only costs 2 mana to put it into play, and says enchanted creature gets +3/+2 and has trample. So that's very good for a 2 mana card, but it also says at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells last turn, sacrifice it. It could backfire. There's a reason why this is at number 10 as well. I'd rather spend more mana on something else. So let's move on to number 9, which is Moon Lace. It's from Time Spiral or The List. It's a rare going for 37 cents on the time of this video. All it is basically an instant target spell or permanent becomes colorless, which can be very helpful, especially when you have like someone planning to play Exile, target color, or monocolored cards. This would be very helpful. Other than that, it's not really a useful card. So let's straight up move on to number 8, which is the Full Moon's Rise from Innistrad. It's an uncommon for 87 cents at the market time of this video. I really like this card because it only costs 2 mana for this enchantment, where it says werewolf creatures you control get +1/+0.5 trample. Sacrifice it, regenerate all werewolf creatures you control. So essentially, you want a werewolf deck, and this card it's just a must-have, which I should actually build a theme deck, which would be pretty cool if someone can do that. So let's move on to number 7, which we got Pale Moon from Nemesis. It's a rare going for 32 cents on the market at the time of this video. This card is more of an annoyance than anything else because it says until end of turn, if a player taps a non-basic land for mana, which is very, very common in the Magic world, most decks have non-basic lands, it produces a colorless mana instead of its normal mana type. Again, this card is more of an annoyance and it costs 2 mana, so this is actually kind of cool. And I really do like the artwork. So let's move on to number 6, which is an interesting card, Calling Howling Moon from Innistrad, Crimson Vow. Basically, this rare card would go very well with the number 8 card, making a werewolf deck. Basically costs 3 mana, says at the beginning of your combat, on your turn, target wolf or werewolf you control gets +2/+2 on a turn. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. So that's really cool. It does stop in a blue deck quite well on its tracks. I suppose red as well. And you get more wolf creatures just for 3 mana. You can keep getting them pumped out. +2/+2. And if you play the other enchantment from number 8, it gives them trample. That's really cool. So let's move halfway down our list to number 5, which is Chaos Moon from Ice Age. It's a rare going for $1.25. That's right, the cards are starting to get higher. Basically, this 4 mana casting, not the typical cheaper one, says during each player's upkeep, count the number of permanents. If that number is odd, all red creatures get +1/+1, and mountains produce an additional mount when tapped for mana until end of turn. If the number is even, all red creatures get -1/-1, and mountain produce colorless mana instead of their normal mana. So this could backfire, but it does give you that controlling factor for 4 mana. This can be very powerful, especially when you have additional mountains to be added. So for 4 mana, you're going to probably get 8 or 9, 10 mana out at that time this enchantment plays to the next upkeep, which is very cool, and that's why it's at number 5. It does have that backfire, but it can work to your benefit. So let's move on to number 4, which is Bad Moon, one of my favorite classic cards. Various sets, rare, and going for $2.58 at the market right now. Basically costs 2 mana. It says all black creatures in play gain +1/+1. For 2 mana, what you can't simply go wrong with it. There's nothing special about this card. There's nothing. It's just plain give the creatures +1/+1 for 2 mana. So let's move on to number 3, which is a very unique card. I will say this. Alpine Moon is from Core Set 2019, a rare going for $8.33. It's very impressive because it costs only 1 mana for this enchantment. When it says, as Alpine Moon enters the battlefield, choose a non-basic land card name. Lands your opponents control with the chosen name lose all land types and abilities, and they gain add 1 mana of any color. So this kind of can backfire, but I'm very, very, very impressed how this moon only costs 1 mana. And again, with the whole traditional thing is that most people play with non-basic lands in their deck. So it can backfire, but I'm very impressed. This is a very unique card. It's not a common ability that you would see in the Magic world. This is why it's at number 3. But let's move on to number 2, which is probably the most famous moon of them all, Blood Moon from various sets. It is a rare in every set except for Amoket Invocations, which is pretty typical, and it's mythic, making its average price $17.65 unless it's the mythic, which is $54. Well, Blood Moon is basically all non-basic lands are now basic mountains. It's quite simple, sweet, costs 3 mana, very cool. And the dark, I absolutely love this picture. 100% I love it. It's at number 2 because this thing deserves it. Let's move on though to number 1, which is Wheel of Sun and Moon. It's from Shadow Moon or the list. It's a rare going for $15.79. This card is absolutely cool. It's Enchantment Aurora. It only costs 2 mana, whichever the forest or the white. Basically says enchant player. If a card would be put into an enchanted player's graveyard from anywhere, instead that card is revealed and put at the bottom of that player's library, which it would be most likely revealed anyway, but your library would never end. There's so many combos with this card. In the real world, this is a playable card with many combos that you can deal with. So that's really cool. I really like this card. I like the artwork as well. And you can do so much with it. This is why it's at number 1. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. There's more on my channel, and have a good day and a good evening.